It wasn't long after psychic Cynthia opened for business in a second-floor apartment in Hopkins that police began getting complaints. Now, 4 felony charges of financial exploitation and swindle against 26-year-old Cynthia Evans.
She talked about curses. She talked about death following around a victim and they need to cash out their life insurance policy. So it's all based on falsities and fraud.
But right now, though, some folks seeking their fortunes are now asking, where's the money? So this afternoon, a warning about scams involving psychic readings.
Psychic scams are growing. The consumer watchdog, the ACCC, says there's been a 219% increase in psychic fraud losses this year, costing Australians more than $260,000.
Hi, everyone. It's Lynn from Devine Central. Now, I love a good rant, but I try not to do it on this channel. However, I had a situation arise recently that just made my blood boil. I am in the presence of a grifter. Now, I'm not going to share specific details, but I will tell you that I had a client come in with tears in her eyes the other day, and she was all upset because this reader had really scared her. And she wanted another reading from me to confirm or refute certain aspects of that reading. Now, I'll come back to her later, but in order to turn this video into something worthwhile, I want to educate you on the darker side of this business and how to spot the bad apples. Now, I'll share with you what tarot does and does not do so that you can kind of cultivate your own philosophy on it. And then I'm going to send a link after I make this video to all my friends and clients and all the people I care about. And I want them to be aware. So here we go. Did you know that tarot, the whole industry, is completely unregulated? I mean, if anybody can hang out a shingle and claim to be a reader, and it doesn't matter if they have any training or not. Now, let's not let scam artists ruin our industry for us. Want to learn the difference between a genuine tarot reading and a ripoff? Well, stay tuned because I'm going to be talking about just that. All right, so it's important to note that not all psychics are fraudulent, and many people find genuine comfort and guidance in getting tarot readings and other psychic readings. So that's why I think a lot of mainstream therapists and life coaches use tarot in their practice. It helps bring clarity to confusing situations and, kind of like clearing the fog, if you will. However, if someone is intentionally using deception to extract money or property under the guise of psychic abilities, then the culprit is probably a grifter, and his or her practice constitutes theft by swindle. Now, dictionary.com will define a grifter as a swindler or a dishonest gambler or someone of that ilk. Now, a grifter is somebody who habitually engages in petty or small-scale swindling or fraud. They use charm and deception and manipulation to gain the trust of other people, and then they exploit that trust by personal gain, like usually with money or property. So unlike someone who commits a single act of fraud, a grifter makes it their full-time job. Now, dictionary.com likewise defines theft by swindle as a type of theft where somebody uses deceit, trickery, false representation to obtain money or property from another individual. So in this regard, or our regard, a person is a grifter if they intentionally deceive somebody for financial gain under the guise of psychic abilities, such as claiming to have psychic powers that they don't have, or offering cleansings or removal of curses for money, charging grief-stricken clients large sums of money to fraudulently contact their deceased loved ones, selling magic or blessed objects or items at inflated prices, and falsely claiming that they have some kind of special power. So the characteristics of a grifter would then be habitual deception, right? Grifting is not a one-time thing, it's a pattern of behavior. And they consistently use dishonest methods to get what they want. Manipulation is another one. They're skilled at reading people and really understanding their weaknesses. And they use that knowledge to manipulate the emotions and gain trust and win the confidence of a victim before they swindle them. They tend to operate on a smaller scale, and this can make them really hard to detect and also to prosecute. And they have a transient lifestyle. So, maybe lucky for us, they don't stick around in one place too long because, well, pretty much the word gets out and then, it's time for them to move on. They like to create a sense of urgency, so they'll pressure clients into making an immediate decision based on fear or a limited offer. And then they offer exclusive or secret knowledge. So, claiming that, hey, I have this special ability to access information that nobody else does. And then finally, my favorite warning sign of all, I had a gentleman come in to my suite the other day that said, he had run into or encountered the same individual, and he said, I stood in their presence, and it just didn't feel right. I couldn't put my finger on it, but it just didn't feel right. So the warning signs are there. You just have to follow your gut. So listen, this is not it's not just unscrupulous psychics that are grifters. Okay. It could be a scheme as simple as giving incorrect change or using sleight of hand to steal small amounts of money. Here's an example that has nothing to do with a psychic, but it's absolutely a grifter. I live in South Texas. This is where thousands and thousands of winter Texans come to spend the winter. They love to eat out in large groups. We have a local restaurant nearby with those electronic payment systems that sit on the table. And we have this one particular waiter where he will come along when you're finished with your meal. He will pick it up, he'll finalize your bill, he'll turn it to the tip page, set it in front of you. And usually you'll okay, add your tip and your card. And he'll stay there to be helpful to you. And then he takes it away from you. If you don't ask for a receipt, he doesn't offer. But one day, and I didn't realize this, but somewhere on the menu, in really, really teeny tiny small print, it says 18% gratuity on all tables of 6 or more. And so one night we were there having dinner. There were 6 of us, and he handed me the machine on the tip page, and I tipped him 20%. But I did ask for a receipt, and he did bring me one later, folded up, and handed it to me. And so I stuck it in my purse. The next day I looked at it and I was horrified to find that he got almost a 40% tip because, see, he'd already added 18%, but he allowed me to give him a 20% tip and didn't mention to me what he'd done. I was in there a week later, and we had dinner. At the end of the meal, I said, by the way, I did not tip you this evening, and I want you to know why. Because you should have told me last week, that you'd already added the tip. And he said to me, oh, so you don't know how to read the menu, and I'm the one that has to pay for it. Next time, get a different waiter. So my question is how many times a week does he do that to elderly people? I mean, oh my God, this is grifting. I mean, plain and simple. Other waiters might use a sob story to elicit sympathy to get a bigger tip. And then again, you're looking at door-to-door salespeople that promise to replace your roof or dig a swimming pool hole for you, for a lot less, but with a sizable down payment, of course. And then you never see them again. All grifting. Hey, remember that first clip at the top of this video? I watched Psychic Cynthia at a show in Minnesota once. She had huge signs up that said $10 show special. Once you sat in her chair, she would offer you, oh, do you want a palm or a tarot? And, people would say, well, I'd like a tarot reading. And so she would give them the tarot reading and say, okay, $50, please. And they would say, $50? The sign says it was 10. Oh, that was for a palm reading. You asked for a tarot reading. $50, please. Well, people would be caught off guard and they'd be embarrassed and they didn't want to make a scene, so they'd pay her the $50. And honestly, after a few people complained, they were unceremoniously asked to pack up and get out of that show. So grifters also target, people who are vulnerable and easily manipulated, and like the elderly and disabled and parents with sick children and even terminal patients. I mean, it's horrific. So it's important to note that the line between a grifter and a more serious criminal, it can be really blurry. So while some grifters are relatively minor, in what they do, others can cause significant financial and emotional harm. So knowledge is power when it comes to tarot. Having a clear purpose for wanting a reading, I think, is not only half the battle, it's pretty much the whole battle. So you need to go in with realistic expectations. And that's what I share with people when they ask me. So let's get back to tarot. What does tarot not do? It doesn't predict specific dates or major life events. So it can absolutely offer insights and potential timelines and energies surrounding certain events, but it's not going to definitively say that X is going to happen by Y date. So any minor shift in your circumstances can significantly change the outcome. And of course, that's called free will, right? It can't diagnose a medical condition. It's not a substitute for medical advice. So health readings really should be taken with a grain of salt. Now, for these, I like to use an options spread. So I let querents know I don't have a crystal ball. So let's use tarot for what it does best. Let's take a glimpse into the path. And an example would be somebody came in and asked me, um, I I had a biopsy and I get the results next Tuesday. Can you tell me if I have cancer? And I would say, look, it's not out there in the universe yet, right? The radiologist hasn't read the thing, the doctor hasn't read the thing. It's not out there. And I would not want to prescribe one way or another test results because that's not what I do. But let's do this. Let's take a look at some cards that will tell you what your path might look like if the answer is positive. Let's pull some other cards of what it might look like if it's negative. How would your path change? And then let's just give you that so you can be prepared either way. Same thing for legal and financial advice. You can only offer perspectives on situations. And here again, it helps give us a path for different outcomes. I think that's what it's best for. So you'll often hear people say you can't reveal definitive information about other people who are not there without their consent. Now, this is kind of a tough one, see, because there's one camp that said, "Oh, an ethical reader would never read, about other people that weren't there." But I mean, come on, it's like, how many readings are involving other people? Like, why is my sister ignoring me? Or, is he telling me the truth? I mean, we get that all the time. I would hesitate to read on, does my ex really love his new girlfriend? Or, is their sex better than it was with me? That kind of stuff is icky, and I just wouldn't do it. So let's talk about curses and hexes for a second too. I mean, tarot is a tool that empowers. It's not meant to inflict harm. So anyone claiming to use tarot to place or lift, curses, they're just a scammer, and you want to watch out for them. So let's talk now about what tarot can do. And this is where you need to get what I call your elevator pitch ready, for people. If you use it for self-discovery, it can really illuminate your strengths and your weaknesses, and help you understand yourself better if that's what you use it for. When it comes to decision making, tarot can offer these different perspectives on a situation, and just help you explore what potential outcomes might be so you have better informed choices. If you're open to it, it can it can bring to the surface maybe some hidden thoughts or feelings or beliefs that you might have that are influencing your life. Now, for me personally, I find this very helpful, but for me, it works best when I get that help with another reader or a fellow reader. I just have a really hard time calling out my own shit, you know what I mean? It's so it's great to use it for a source of inspiration if you're trying to spark new ideas or get clarity on some situation. And it's a way to explore potential trends maybe and energies, allowing you to prepare for and navigate something maybe more effectively than you otherwise would have. So there's again, my option spread works great for this as well. And what I'm going to do is I will highlight examples of how you can take these tough questions and turn them around into an option spread for clients because it's working really well in my shop right now. So I will make that my next video next week. How's that? So if you want to get in front of the situation, here are the top 5 questions to ask a potential tarot reader. And you know what? This is something that it will be helpful for you as a tarot reader so that you can prepare for it in advance. Number 1, what is your approach to tarot? And listen for answers like anything that emphasizes empowerment or free will or ethics or boundaries. Number 2, what is your reading style? This can really help you determine if their style aligns with what you need. So if somebody's going to say to you, "Oh, I will dig deep into into your soul, and I will find the source of all your anxiety," that might be what somebody says their reading style's like. For me, I would say I'm a solutions-oriented reader, and I want to help you find solutions that will help you find your way to your best path forward, something to that effect. Number 3, what are some common misconceptions about tarot? Any ethical reader would be able to rattle off at least a few. Number 4, have you ever refused to do a reading for someone? And if so, why? I think this will really reveal their ethical boundaries, don't you? And finally, what are your fees and what do they include? Their pricing structure should be very clear and be wary of anybody who pressures you or wants to tack on upgrades or something at the end. I just think that's all hooey. So I want to come back to that client at the beginning who came into my shop with tears in her eyes. Okay. She had a 7-year-old that she was told was going to become gravely ill this year. Her husband was cheating and was going to be leaving her very soon. Someone she knows was going to die on Thursday. And all of these problems stemmed from a curse that someone put on her last year. Tarot empowers. It does not predict disaster, death, or despair. And another mutual client told me he had a similar experience with the same individual, that he picked up on some really bad energy as soon as he walked into the room. His spidey sense kicked in and it told him it just didn't feel right. So I made this video more to vent, but actually I also wanted to give you some and up and coming tarotists some ideas to formulate your own response to either someone in distress over such a disgusting encounter as these people ran into, or just for someone who had a bad experience in the past and is afraid to have another reading. We want to turn those people around. This is where we pull tarot out of the shadows and bring it into the light. The true magic with tarot lies not in predicting the future, but in transforming the present. So be an ambassador of that. Next week, I'll do those sample readings on my option spread. I think you might really find it helpful. I know it's been working, like I said, in my shop. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. That's how people find it. Thank you for listening. I will see you next week. Bye-bye.